Hi guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, creations to be seen, or you just want to visit my little shorts to see little Thor, little Ragnar the raccoon, or Spirit dropping by and saying hi, please consider supporting my work. All the information is in the description box. And if you would like, holidays are here. If you like a pyramid for any time of the year, birthdays, celebrations, I make delicious smelling soy candles with gems inside. This is Frozen Stream Winter Magic. Forest Pine. And this is Campfire Man Cave. I keep showing this one. I have two more upstairs, Plum Fairy and something but burning wood. I try to give whimsical names to things. But they all have gems and black salt and protection, and I put my energy into everything I do, especially these beauties. Please go visit my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com. It's 14 degrees outside. It's cold. I am layered. Layered. I was going to do a spiritual soul advice, by the way. I'm going to hold on that because it wants me to do this. I don't dictate what I do. They do. Sorry, guys. I am just Xing out. I have a million things on my screen. I don't know why. So we're going to do Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, for those of you who are new, I skip around. I just read what is relevant to the here and now and how it applies. So bear with me. I don't read the whole thing. I just go through sections. Also, why I am reading this book is because of divine neutrality. A lot of people see the good, which is going to be the topic of my next spiritual soul advice, is finding the God in other things, finding the God spark, finding the infinite all, finding the prime creator, whatever you want to call the it that made in breath. And here comes the light. This is a very interesting take on both sides. And Friedrich Nietzsche is an interesting character, although a lot of people fancifully hate the man. I have grown to like his work. It has helped me see perspectives in ways that no one else could possibly do it. And Schopenhauer is another one who really, with his wording, and it's not easy to read his work, but when I read it in college, it has changed my life profoundly. So we're going to start. I don't know if I left off on, I don't know where I left off. I put a post-it, it flew away. And if I'm repeating myself, I do apologize. Independence is for the very few. It is a privilege of the strong. And whoever attempts it, even with the best, right, but without inner constraint, proves that he is probably not only strong, but also daring to point of recklessness. He enters into a labyrinth. He multiplies 1,000-fold the dangers which life brings with it in any case, not the least of which is that no one can see how and where he loses his way, becomes lonely, and is torn piecemeal by some minotaur of consciousness. Supposing one like that comes to grief, this happens so far from the comprehension of men that they neither feel it nor sympathize, and he cannot go back any longer, nor can he go back to the pity of men. And I have a lot of my little notes on these pages. Our highest insights must and should sound like follies, and sometimes like crimes, when they are heard without permission by those who are not predisposed and predestined for them. Doesn't that sound like what's happening right now? Dangling carrots, wishful, fanciful, emotional states that people are driving up. I see it on Facebook all the time. Oh my God, this is happening. Oh, the clock went to 0. Are you destined for it? Good pondering there. The difference between the erotic and the exoteric, and the esoteric, formerly known to philosophers among the Indians, as among the Greeks, Persians, and Muslims, in short, wherever one believed in an order of rank and not in equality and equal rights, does not so much consist in this, that the exoteric approach comes from outside and sees, estimates, measures, and judges from the outside, not the inside. What is much more essential is that the exoteric approach sees things from below, and the esoteric looks down from above. There are heights of the soul from which even tragedy ceases to look tragic, and rolling together all the woe of the world. Who could dare to decide whether its sight would necessarily seduce us and compel us to feel pity and thus double this woe? What serves the higher type of men as nourishment or delectation must also be poison for a very different and inferior type. The virtues of the common man might perhaps signify vices and weaknesses in a philosopher. It could be possible that a man of a high type, when degrading and perishing, might only at the point acquire qualities that would require those in the lower sphere into which he had sunk to begin to venerate him like a saint. There are books that have opposite values for soul and health, depending on whether the lower soul, the lower vitality, or the higher and more vigorous ones turn to them. In the former case, these books are dangerous and lead to crumbling and disintegration. In the latter, heralds cries that call the bravest to their courage. Books for all the world are always foul-smelling books. The smell of small people clings to them. Where the people eat and drink, even where they venerate, it usually stinks. One should not go to church if one wants to breathe pure air. Interesting. When one is young, one venerates and despises without that art of nuances, which constitute the best grain of life. And it is only fair that one has to pay dearly for having assaulted men and things in this manner with yes and no. Everything is arranged so that the worst of tastes, the taste for the unconditional, should be cruelly fooled and abused upon until a man learns to put a little art into his feelings, and rather to risk trying even what is artificial, as the real artists of life do. I have that marked. The wrathful and reverent attitudes characteristic of youth do not seem to permit themselves any rest until they have forged men and things in such a way that these attitudes may be vented on them. After all, youth in itself has something of forgery and deception. Later, when the young soul, tortured by all kinds of disappointments, finally turns suspiciously against itself, still hot and wild, even in its suspicion and pangs of consciousness, how wroth it is with itself now, how it tears itself to pieces impatiently, how it takes revenge for its long self-delusion, just as if it had a deliberate blindness. In this transition, one punishes oneself with mistrust against one's own feelings. One tortures one's own enthusiasm with doubts. Indeed, one expresses even a good conscience as a danger, as if it were a way of wrapping oneself in veils and the exhaustion of subtler honesty. And above all, one takes sides on principle against youth. 10 years later, one comprehends that all this, too, was still youth. A lot of people are doing this right now. We're doing that self-work. We're going and looking at our shadow self. We're realizing we fucked up in many aspects of our lives. Some of our reactions are immature. And some of the things that we are doing, like tantruming, projecting, and spewing on people in like a high school manner for people who are in their 40s plus, we got to realize, are you behaving like a child? What is the difference now than it was then? You have the control, the fortitude to control your reactions, to see things as experiences, to walk in that experience, knowing it's a catalyst you put there. Forgive it, release it, let it go, learn from the mistake that you made, forgive yourself for that mistake, and move forward with your life. Detach yourself, cut the cords, cut the entanglement to things that no longer serve you, that are not serving you in your present moment. Stress sucks. It kills. And we're seeing a lot more death lately. That's due to in part that your contract is up with Source. You're not meant to stay. You're meant to transcend. Now, some people are staying here. Many of us will. Many of us are leaving. Detach. No is just energy. Not to sound hard or mean. Trust me, I've lost a lot of people in my life. They're right here. I mean, the other day I did a video and spirit whizzed out and boop. So let's continue. During the longest part of human history, so-called prehistorical times, the value or disvalue of an action was derived from its consequences. The action itself was considered as little as its origin. It was rather the way to a distinction or disgrace still which reaches back today from a child to its parent in China. It was the retroactive force of success or failure that led men to think well or ill of an action. Let us call this period the pre-moral period of mankind. The imperative know thyself was as yet unknown. So when we were incarnated in almost second, highest octave of second density, third, beginning third, we were depending on what branch of thinking you're coming from. Ashiana Dean's are different. The Illuminati's different. If you feel like you were a Neanderthal and that's how you evolved, cool. So let's take that analogy. You're a Neanderthal. You really haven't seen yourself. You're not self-identifying just yet. Each and every one of your lives is very short because you keep fucking up. You found out how to make fire, but oops, you're hairy and you went on fire and you died. So next life you come in and you're like, oh, hell no, I'm not going near that fire. You live near the ocean and you didn't know it's hot outside. I'm sticky and gross. Oh, let me go in. And you drown. So the next life you come back, you know not to go near that water. You could fish it from afar. This is an example of what is being described here in layman's simplistic, sorry. In the last 10,000 years, however, one has reached the point step by step in a few large regions on the earth where it is no longer the consequences, but the origin of an action that one allows to decide its value. On the whole, this is a great event, which involves a considerable refinement of vision and standards. It is the unconscious after effect of the rule of aristocratic values and the faith and dissent, the sign of a period that one may call moral in narrower sense. It involves the first attempt at self-knowledge. Instead of the consequences, the origin, indeed, a reversal of perspective. Surely a reversal achieved only after long struggles and vacillations. To be sure, a calamitous new superstition and old narrowness of interpretation thus become dominant. The origin of an action was interpreted in the most definite sense as origin in an intention. One came to agree that the value of an action lay in the value of the intention. The intention as the whole origin and prehistory of an action. Almost to the present day, this prejudice dominated moral praise, blame, judgment, and philosophy on earth. This is so true. But today, shouldn't we have reached the necessity of one more resolving on a reversal and fundamental shift in values, owing to another self-examination of man, another growth in profundity? Don't we stand at the threshold of a period which should be designated negatively to begin with an extra moral? After all, today, at least we immoralists have the suspicion that the decisive value of an action lies precisely in what is unintentional in it, while everything about it that is intentional, everything about it that can be seen, known, conscious, still belongs to its surface skin, which, like every skin, betrays something but conceals even more. In short, we believe that the intention is merely a sign and symptom that still requires interpretation, moreover, a sign that means too much and therefore taken by itself alone, almost nothing. We believe that morality in the traditional sense, the morality of intentions, was a prejudice, precipitate, and perhaps provisional, something on the order of astrology and alchemy, but in any case, something that must be overcome. The overcoming of morality, in a certain sense, even the overcoming of morality. Let this be the name for that long secret work, which has been saved up for the finest and most honest, also most malicious consciousness of today as living touchstones of the soul. There is no other way. The feelings of devotion, self-sacrifice for one's neighbor, the whole morality of self-denial must be questioned mercilessly and taken to court. no less than the aesthetics of contemplation devoid of its interests, which is used today as a seductive guise for the emasculation of art, to give it a good conscience. There's too much charm and sugar in these feelings of for others, not for myself. For us not to need to become doubly suspicious at this point to ask, are these not perhaps seductions, that they please those who have them and those who enjoy their fruits, and also the mere spectator? This does not yet constitute an argument in their favor, but rather invites caution. So let's be cautious. This here is what I've been, in layman's terms, been cautioning everybody about: the agendas, about the people you follow, about what you're taking into your consciousness, the content that you're soaking in. Are you detaching? Are you absorbing? Are you believing and hanging off of everything that you see? Because I can say now that I'm seeing more and more of this. Oh my God, something's going to happen. The deck clock's going off. This message is this, and that is that. And the interpretation's all great, but it's just an interpretation. It's an observation. You can come up with a million hypotheses. There's no conclusion until reality hits. When you go into your heart space, and if it is meant to be for you individually, you will feel it. If it's not meant for you, detach from it. Too many people are even too selfless. They don't take care of themselves. They're not knowing thyself. They'll know about everybody else but thyself. Not because they are bad people. They're amazing people. I say this all the time. I talk to so many people, and everything is an excuse why they can't do the work for themselves, because they have busy lives, their families, their work, their this, their that. And it's like, okay, but when are you going to slow down and take care of yourself and inflect? Go inside. Who are you? What is your purpose here? Not what your children's purposes are. Your children are a part of your purpose and not your full purpose. They chose you to give them an experience, to be a catalyst for them for soul growth. You still have your own mission. You're here as an individuated, unique expression of source. What are you contributing besides contributing to everybody else but yourself? Are you reflecting for the God within you? And we set ourselves up for devastation. We set ourselves up because we want to blindly follow others. And it's not to say that other people are not to be followed. They're to be listened to. And if it comes to this and whatever they're saying is in alignment with your heart space, then yes, move forward. And you can take portions. You don't have to agree with everything someone says. You don't need to be in heart alignment, but then don't dangle the carrot on the stick in front of you and chase it. Just stop doing it. It is that easy. Chuck the rod. Let the bunny eat the carrot. They're hungry. And if my face appears a little bit red, I have been having all day spirit wanting to channel through me, which is no. Not today, spirit. No, they always channel through me, but I have higher density beings trying to. We're in very trying times. And I want the consciousness of unity, the expansion happening. I want more people to be a part of it. I want more people to understand it. I want people to better themselves. That's the key goal. Go within what makes you happy. Nietzsche's pointing this out in his work. Life is a balance of duality. There are good things about you and bad things about you. The bad things, when you recognize them, you heal them. You say sorry. And if you can go back and say sorry to people that you affected or you might have affected, maybe reach out, but not all the time are those people alive or wanting to speak to you. So write a letter and burn it. Do something, get it out, get that energy out of you. Release it. It's no longer serving you. It's only holding space in you that you're going to eventually have to purge regardless. So why not purge it now? Maybe. In all seriousness, the innocence of our thinkers is somehow touching and evokes reverence. When today they still step before consciousness with the request that it should please give them honest answers. For example, whether it is real and why it is so resolutely keeps the external world at a distance, and the other questions of that kind. The faith in immediate certainties is a moral naivety that reflects honor on us philosophers. But after all, we should not be merely moral men. Apart from morality, this faith is a stupidity that reflects little honor on us. In bourgeoisie life, every present suspicion may be considered a sign of bad character, and hence belong among things imprudent. Here, among us, beyond the bourgeoisie world, and its yes and no, what should prevent us from being imprudent and saying a philosopher has nothing less than a right to bad character as the being who has so far always been fooled best on earth? He has a duty to suspicion today, to squint maliciously out of every abyss of suspicion. Forgive me the joke of this gloomy grimace and trope, for I myself have learned long ago to think differently, to estimate differently with regard to deceiving and being deceived. And I keep in reserve at least a couple of jostlists for the blind rage with which the philosophers resist being deceived. Why not? It is no more than a moral prejudice that truth is worth more than mere appearance. It is even the worst proved assumption that there is in the world. Let us at least this much be admitted. There would be no life at all if not on the basis of perspective, estimates, and appearances, and if with virtuous enthusiasm and clumsiness of some philosophers, one wanted to abolish the apparent world altogether. Well, supposing you could do that, at least nothing would be left of your truth either. Indeed, that forces us at all to suppose that there is an essential opposition of true and false. Is it not sufficient to assume degrees of apparentness and, as it were, lighter and darker shadows and shades of appearance, different values, to use the language of painters. Why couldn't the world that concerns us be a fiction? And if somebody asked, but to a fiction, there surely belongs an author, couldn't one answer simply why? Does this perhaps belong to the fiction too? It is not permitted to be a bit ironical about the subject no less than the predict an object. Shouldn't philosophers be permitted to rise above faith in grammar? All due respect for governess, but hasn't the time come for philosophy to renounce the faith of governess? Suppose nothing else were given as real except our world of desires and passions, and we could not get down or up to any other reality besides the reality of our drives. For thinking is merely a relation of these drives to each other. It is not permitted to make the experiment and to ask the question whether this given would not be sufficient for also understanding on the basis of this kind of thing, the so-called mechanistic or material world. I mean, not as a deception, as mere appearance, an idea, in the sense of Berkeley and Schopenhauer, but as holding the same rank of reality as our effect, as more primitive form of the world of effects in which everything still lies contained in its powerful unity before it undergoes ramifications and developments in the organic process, and as is only fair, also becomes tender and weaker, as a kind of instinctive life in which all organic functions are still synthetically intertwined along with self-regulation, assimilation, nourishment, excretion, and metabolism as a preform of life. In the end, not only is it permitted to make this experiment, the conscience of method demands it, not to assume several kinds of causality until the experiment of making do with a single one has been pushed to its utmost limit, to the point of nonsense, if I may say so. That is a moral or method which one may not shirk today. It follows from its definition, as a mathematician would say, the question is in the end whether we really recognize the will as efficient, whether we believe in the causality of the will. If we do, and at the bottom, our faith in this is nothing less than our faith in causality itself, then we have to make the experiment of positing the causality of the will hypothetically as the one and only one. Will, of course, can affect only will and no matter, not nerves, for example. In short, one has to risk the hypothesis whether will does not affect will, wherever effects are recognized and whether all mechanical occurrences are not, insofar as a force is active in them, will force effects of will. Suppose finally we succeed in explaining our entire instinctive life as the development and ramification of one basic form of the will, namely of the will to power. As my proposition has it, suppose all organic functions could be traced back to this will to power. And one could also find it in the solution of the problem of procreation and nourishment. It is one problem, then one could have gained the right to determine all efficient force unequivocally as will to power. The world view from inside, the world defined and determined according to its intangible character. It would be will to power and nothing else. There's a lot about the will. So much. And that's just an example. No one, nobody is very likely to consider a doctrine true merely because it makes people happy or virtuous, except perhaps the lovely idealists who become effusive about the good, the true, and the beautiful, and allow all kinds of motley, clumsily, and benevolent, sorry guys, my teeth, desiderata to swim around in utter confusion in their pond. Happening now. Happiness and virtue are no arguments, but people like to forget, even sober spirits, that making unhappy and evil are no counter arguments. Something might be true while being harmful and dangerous in the highest degree. Indeed, it might be a basic characteristic of existence that those who would know it completely would perish, in which case the strength of a spirit would be measured according to how much of the truth one could still barely endure. Or to put it more clearly, to what degree one would require it to be thinned down, shrouded, sweetened, blunted, and falsified. I need a marker. So in one breath, we knock a lot of books, a lot of information on either side. We got to look at the middle and look at both sides equally. And really not having a bias either. Seeing what is really in front of you in reality, what is here in front of you. This is not easy. We want to believe in the fanciful carrot dangling on a stick, that these financial systems, the world's going to come to a close, the cycle of the sixth race going now to the seventh, whatever you want to put your heart space in. There are a lot of people who are not doing this and following along that carrot dangling in front of you. Instead of looking at both sides to see the truth on both ends. A lot of people question me on why I read certain books. Why do I read masonry books? Why? There's a lot of whys. Because you need both sides and both perspectives. Well, you read satanic work, you read this and you read that. Well, you need to know what both sides and what's unloading on this side. Where if you're only looking at one side, you're being deceived. Like I said in a lot of videos, regardless of your political affiliation, what is in your reality doesn't make sense. Do you hate certain people because they have an attitude, they tweet too much, they're coarse? Are you on the flip side to see the reality of what's going on? But at the same time, the very people that are running that movie are deceiving you. They're dangling a carrot in front of you to feed it energy. I decided to see that and see the agendas that are playing out between all these influencers, Not all of them, some of them. People who have intel. We've been hearing this on a few of the podcasts that I help run, right? I listen to my heart. I don't, as much as I have amazing friends, and I love them dearly. What's steering them is not what's steering me. And that is as blunt and as plainly as I could put it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends and I'm not going to, you know, take what they're saying in. I take it in and I bring it here. But on a bigger scale, how long have a lot of us been waiting to be redeemed in a sense? How long have you haven't spoken to your family because you didn't do certain things or you believe in certain ideologies? And that's both ends. That's not just on one side. That's on both. For everybody who pointed the finger and well, you didn't take it and you did take it and you didn't take it and you took it. And now you can't come to Christmas dinner and you can't do Thanksgiving dinner. And people were doing that. That fed energy to both sides of an agenda, not just one. Try to be neutral. It isn't easy. But when you start seeing how both sides are playing the chess match, and you got the overhead view of the moves being made, and you're looking at the different processes of thinking that each are making to make the next move, then you can have a clearer assumption of how you should just be the neutral person in the game, the neutral character. What it doesn't matter what side you're on, you're being played. We all are. Whether it be a cog, that's great. But you know what? In some of the documents that they put their hands on and pledged to, there's a big, humongous issue. Whether this is a real World War III, whether it's a fake one, whether it's a cog, whatever it is, it's going on. Oh, well, it has to take time. And this has been going on for millennia. Okay, great. Totally get it. Hi. Sorry I had a pause there. We get my point. But there is no doubt at all that the evil and unhappy are more favored than it comes to the discovery of certain parts of truth. And the probability of their success here is greater, not to speak of the evil who are happy. A species, the moralists, bury in silence. Perhaps hardness and cunning furnished more favorable conditions for origin of the strong, independent spirit and philosopher than that gentle, fine, conciliatory, good-naturedness and art of taking things lightly, which people prize, and prize rightly in a scholar. Assuming first of all that the concept philosopher is not restricted to the philosopher who writes books or makes books of his philosophy. A final trait for the image of the free-spirited philosopher is contributed by Stendhal, whom, considering German taste, I do not want to fail to stress, for he goes against the German taste. Interesting there. So we could see he's trying to get you to understand both sides of the coin. Be aware of both sides of the coin. I'm going to read two more sections here. They're very good. I mean, this whole book is very good. but to the point that I'm trying to portray with the good and evil kind of stuff. Whatever is profound loves masks. What is most profound even hates image and parable. Might not nothing less than the opposite be the proper disguise for the shame of a god? Lowercase g, by the way. A questionable question. It would be odd if some mystic had not risked something to that effect in his mind. There are occurrences of such a delicate nature that one does well to cover them up with some rudeness to conceal them. There are actions of love and extravagant generosity after which nothing is more advisable than to take a stick and give any eyewitness a sound thrashing. That would muddle his memory. Some know how to muddle and abuse their own memory in order to have their revenge, at least against this only witness. Shame is inventive. It is not the worst things that cause the worst shame. There's only guile behind a mask. There is so much graciousness in cunning. I can imagine that a human being who had to guard something precious and vulnerable might roll through life rude and round as an old green wine cask with heavy hoops. The refinement of his shame would want it that way. A man whose sense of shame has some profundity encounters his destinies and delicate decisions too on paths which few ever reach, and whose mere existence his closest intimates must not know. His mortal danger is concealed from their eyes, and so, is his regained sureness of life. Such a concealed man who instinctively needs speech for silence and for burial in silence, and who's inexhaustible in his evasion of communication, wants and sees to it that a mask of him roams in his place through the hearts and heads of his friends. And supposing he did not want it, he would still realize someday that in spite of that mask of him is there, and that this is well. Every profound spirit needs a mask. Even more, around every profound spirit, a mask is growing continually. Owing to constantly false, namely shadow, interpretation of every word, every step, every sign of life he gives. Now, reflect on that. We all have personality shifts when we're in social groups, when we're around different people. We all do that. That's human. But there are people out there that put on a really good show. And some act in such ways to deceive you. Again, are you going inside of yourself to align their message to yours? Does it align to your heart? Does it align throughout? People are going to wear masks, but here's the deal. We're at the point in juncture in time, space, right? Because it really doesn't exist. But if we conjure the time space continuum, and this is the reality that we're living in, are you being your authentic self? Are you putting on a show for people? Are you keeping up with the Joneses? Are you being true to your heart space? That's one of the things that in my life growing up I was always authentic. I didn't have to wear too many masks. We all have to put them on. I had to fake it till I make it. So there's a mask of fakeness. I had to fake being happy. I had to fake being content with things I wasn't content with. Because when you're around family and when you're around certain people, that the choices are limited on getting an escape route, you got to put on a mask to be decent, right? But how many of you walk in your authenticity? I know I do. It's why I haven't jumped on someone else's train to help me grow my channel. I authentically put my words and my energy out there, and whoever picks it up, great. Whoever understands it, great. Whoever melds with it and aligns with it, great. But I'm not here to put someone on to grow my channel because they're my best friend. I don't use people that way. We have to walk in authenticity. I do me. I'm happy doing me. I'm happy. I change my eye makeup up. I put different things on. Some days I look more like my masculine self. I'm more in my masculine clothes today because I got a holster and I got my tactical belt. I got some goodies for the gun range, and I'm really damn excited. I'm not one of those girls with the, popping my chest out and here's my booty and I'm going to look cute shooting. No, like that's just not me. And I'm not going to be that to appease others. Are you walking in your authenticity? Are you doing you in your fullest capacity? People are going to love you and they're going to hate you. Like I keep saying, you're going to be the devil in someone's story, and you might have done nothing wrong to that person. They just might perceive you that way. A lot of people don't equate spiritual when you look at me. Unless you're looking at my rings and you're looking at my jewelry that I kind of downsized my necklaces and my bracelets, but you don't look at me to think, oh, she's like one of those spiritual people. I don't wear those flowy boho dresses and, flowers in my hair. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think I would look beautiful if I did that. That's just not in my personality. I can wear that if I'm up to it, but I don't. That's just not me. What are you? How are you walking in this truth? How are you being authentic to yourself? If somebody is making me upset, I'm going to be nice about it, but I'm going to tell them. We all have to balance family. We have to balance society. And that isn't an easy balancing act. But you got to be true to yourself. And you have to have your boundaries and you have to have your convictions set. A lot of people allow other people to walk all over them. And other people are overly, exorbitantly narcissistic and have their nose in the air, and they don't let too many people in. They're going with a mold that was programmed into them. Many of us were not programmable. We tick to our own talk, we do our own thing. Are you one of those people? And it's okay if you tick to other people's talks, and it's okay if you follow the crowd. I tend to be the lone wolf. And now we're going into unity consciousness, and I can't be that lone wolf anymore. I need to come and gather my pack. It's just now deciding who's in my pack. That's not easy, but I'm going to be my authentic self regardless. Are you? Last section. One has to test oneself to see that one is destined for independence and command and do it at the right time. One should not dodge one's tests. I had the biggest smile on my face because this is where I want to end it. Though they may be the most dangerous game one could play and are tests that are taken in the end before no witness or judge but ourselves. We put catalysts in our lives. We don't remember putting them there, but we did. The veil, when you're born, the veil is over you. You can't remember what your agreement with source is and with other people. You don't know what you assigned to yourself. That's the beauty of living this existence, is not knowing. Living everyday life in righteousness. And yeah, we all slip up and make mistakes and have very dark, bad periods. I've been there, done that. I know what the devil looks like. I've seen it in his face. For real. I wrote it down when I was a kid. I know what those dark abysses are. I have at least 8 journals above me on my desk that talk about the void of space, that talks about death and wanting to not be here anymore. Because I didn't value my life. I was numb. I was not spoken to properly. I was not loved properly. And that's not just by my family, that's by everybody around me. But through that tough shit that I had to deal with, and I'm not alone, there's plenty of us that have had that past, I became a stronger person. I was bullied. I became a stronger person. In the moment that it happened, it hurt, but I released that energy and built a stronger foundation for myself to stand on. I didn't let it beat me up. Although I was in those places numerous times in my past as growing up, it made me stronger and it never took me down. I wouldn't let it. These tests are here for us soul growth and to learn. They suck. I'm going through it right now. I'm being tested heavily in the universe right now. Literally. I asked for the boyfriend. I get a boyfriend, but it comes with a silver platter of hell. Nothing easy. Without divulging my private stuff. There's just a lot going on in all of our lives. It's almost a year that I'm here. It's insane what a year does to somebody and how much spiritual and soul growth I have. And I'm not nowhere near done in that experiment. And I say experiment because this is all that it is. It's just an experiment that I'm having an experience in. But it's rough. Tests are rough. And we fail multiple times. And then the lesson comes in different ways, but it's still a test. To see if we pass it, maybe we get a little easier bump in the road that we traverse. And we're like, oh shit, that was what I was supposed to learn. Damn it. But then you go back and heal what didn't work and what you didn't learn at the first time. You learned it the second time, and now you can say, okay, I can release that and let it go. But we're almost done here. Not to remain stuck to a person, not even the most loved. Every person is a prison, also a nook. Not to remain stuck to a fatherland, not even if it suffers most and needs help most. It is less difficult to sever one's heart from a victorious fatherland, not to remain stuck to some pity, not even for higher men in whose rare torture and helplessness some accident allowed us to look. Not to remain stuck to a science, even if it should lure us with the most precious finds that seem to have been saved up precisely for us. Not to remain stuck to one's own detachments, to that voluptuous, I can never say that word right, sorry guys, remoteless and strangeness of the bird who flees ever higher to see ever more below him. The danger of the flyer, not to remain stuck to our own virtues and become as a whole the victim of some detail in us. And such as our hospitality, which is the danger of dangers for superior and rich souls who spend themselves lavishly, almost indifferently, and exaggerate the virtue of generosity into a vice. One must know how to conserve oneself, the hardest test of independence. That's all very so in your face right now in this world. We're going through that right now. You have to align your heart with other people. Period. I can't do it for you because who I gravitate toward is might not be who you gravitate towards. But I'm seeing a lot of things on social media. I'm still seeing a lot of people really not doing the work on themselves. And that's okay. That's not their time to do it. But for those who are in the understanding and in the process, don't allow those people to lure you into things that it looks so pretty and shiny. We're being deceived on both sides. No one person has the whole smackdown of truth. I don't care how many millions of document printed there is in my best friend's house. Not all of that is true. There's a lot of truth there. There's a way more truth. And the beauty of learning and looking back at history is that we are not doomed to repeat it if we know what happened. That's the beauty about Jack and Jason. The other stuff I've already transcended. Many of you are not there yet, and that's fine. And if you don't even listen to Jason or Jack, that's fine too. You got to go here. You have to align yourself with what your perception and interpretation of what this world is to you, no one else. Not your husband, not your wife, not your kids, not your family, not your best friend, yourself. That period of time was a big wake-up call for many of us. And many of us that had the time took advantage of it and doing a lot of inner work, a lot of reflection, a lot of shadow. I know I did. And that's why I could say a year later, I am where I am here with huge amount of expansion in my consciousness. I'm not fully awake. I'm not fully aware, but I know for my own self that for my journey, have exceeded my expectations tenfold. I have raised my confidence level that I don't need to be validated. If someone's going to align with my message, they're going to align with it, whether it's channeled or not. We all channel, by the way. I'm just aware of it. Your thoughts are not your own. You're still a unique expression of an infinitude of energy that comes from the universe. Whether you want to believe a prime creator created it, it's the all, it's the void, whatever it is, it's both. We're all one. When we tear down those masks, when you look at both sides, and you can start putting the puzzle pieces together to see the bigger picture. We've been deceived on both sides. We're still being deceived. Well, it's a psyop. Everything is a psyop. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything is banana nut crazy. Whether you're on one side or the other, you still know instinctively, if you're half decent human being, to know that there's a lot wrong in this world. And there's a lot of things that optically are looking like they're getting away with, when in reality they really shouldn't, and it shouldn't have played out this way. I'm sorry, people have created a bigger issue with putting stand-ins, whether you want to call it an actor or a clone, doesn't matter. It's still deception. Oh, because we have to make sure other people don't faint to know that their favorite idol is fake. What is that really doing? What kind of truth is that? Did you ever think about that? If you do you do a crime, me and anybody else would be in jail, rotting away. No one knows your name and you have a number. No one cares about you. I know plenty of people that have been in jail. It sucks. But no one was advocating for them because no one even knew their existence, besides the small amount of people around them. Why are these people any different? Oh, because they have money. Because we give them the energy. Stop feeding it. Just stop. I don't choose to feed energy to anything that doesn't align with my heart. I will pacify things, but a few of us are already starting that process, and I'm seeing it, and I'm very proud of a lot of people for standing in their conviction and saying, well, I don't listen to these people anymore. If other people get excitement and that's what they want to do, great, but I have better and bigger things to do with my life than to sit there and be deceived and to get my emotions all wrapped up into others' words and projections and agendas that don't align with me. I'm very proud of people for doing that. I know I have. I was on the bandwagon with everybody else. But then the real truth and the bird's eye view smacked me in the face one day. I'm still waiting. We're supposed to be vindicated. Never, it hasn't happened. And even if it did now, I wouldn't feel vindicated because we've been deceived on both sides. When you go within, it's all you need to do. And for those who are walking the middle way path, we're going to be the way showers. We're going to be the ones who signed up for this role to help other people walk in that same path. And the next time I do a video, I'm hoping tomorrow, and I'm sorry, it was like, this was a little choppy. I had phone calls and boyfriend did drop by. Spiritual soul advice is going to be a big one. But it wasn't ready yet because this needed to be tackled. Because a lot of people don't listen to me. Sometimes they listen to the video and they listen more because it's coming out of a book. And that's okay. I have a whole section of his books behind me. It's important. And the journey that we're going on is very much like the hermit's journey. And all the stories I read throughout that series, I'm not done with that yet either. But we're in a crux right now. The energies are going bananas. The world is falling and unraveling. Things are happening. We're still being deceived, but things are happening. And it's a matter of, where do we stand and what is our purpose in this? And that hasn't really unfolded yet. We're just coming out of the chute and we're just starting to like get some sort of semblance of what a flower might become. We didn't bloom anywhere near yet. We're there, but we're not. And when we figure out what both sides look like, Nietzsche's bringing you through that in different scenarios through what I'm reading you. How are you going to walk through your life and see what is being said in this book and walking righteously in your own divine truth, in your authenticity? And if you haven't started yet, that's okay. When you feel the calling to do so, please start doing the work. I have plenty of videos on how you start. Affirmations, stickies on the mirror, getting affirmation cards, $5 for a whole stack of these at Five Below. It's the little things each day that start helping you develop knowing thyself. Stop beating yourself up. Give yourself compassion and grace. I have to do it every day, knowing what I'm handling and dealing with on an everyday basis. It's batshit crazy right now. But we're here. We're in it to win it. And let's do it together. More of us that walk the path will be the ones who help manifest and get things done a little quicker. And I'm starting to see the uptick. And I'm starting to see more people come and climb on that train of the middle way path. So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, protection, energy. Please be safe and be seen. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. If you celebrate nothing, that's okay too. Enjoy the magic that is of this time. It's a magical time. Christmas lights. My whole house is decked out in Christmas lights. I want to cheer people up. It's beautiful going and seeing the decorations and whatever you celebrate. Feel the magic in your heart. Try to have acts of kindness each and every day. Be the person you are meant to be. Be that lighthouse. And know it's all of source. All of it. This is just an experience. Are you passing your tests? When you take life as experience and tests, you detach You don't want to completely detach because you still have emotions, but you want to see the full picture. You want to have more of a deeper understanding of why certain things happen. You still have to go through the emotional part, but just know what it is and that you can get through it and you will get through it. And with that, guys, I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your nights, amazing rest of your weeks. And if you guys are taking vacation, you don't see me, I hope you all have a fantastic vacation if you have one. Be safe, be seen, and I'll see you guys on the next one.